Monday night, it was all Indians, scoring 8 runs on 10 hits. Last night, the Red Sox returned the favor, belting out 16 knocks in a 9-1 win. Michael Brantley has picked up right where he left off after missing 3 games in Minnesota. And tonight, Jason Kipnis will make his first start since coming off the disabled list. Corey Kluber is coming off back-to-back complete game wins, and he faces the Boston Bats next on Sports Time Ohio. Changes in the air at Fenway Park in Boston, Massachusetts, where tonight the Cleveland Indians wrap up this 3-game series against the Bo Sox. Hi again, everyone. Matt Underwood alongside Rick Manning. Big change when you talk about the front office for Boston. Yesterday it was announced that Dave Dombrowski was hired to oversee all of baseball operations. Ben Cherington, the Red Sox general manager, stepped down just 3 years after leading the team to the World Championship.
Well, yeah, Cherington had an opportunity. Dave Dombrowski tried to keep him here as a general manager. He wanted to step down, so word around here is maybe Frank Wren may come here. It hasn't been named yet, but Dave Dombrowski will find somebody as the GM, and it's a good move for Boston here. They're all pumped up about it.
We know Dave from obviously many years of competing against him in the American League Central Division when he ran the Detroit Tigers. Very well-respected baseball man, and congratulations to Dave and the Boston Red Sox. On to our game tonight. Corey Kluber will take the ball for the Tribe. 3 out of his last 4 starts. He's pitched all 9 innings.
Well, he's been as good as you can get. Corey Kluber has been locked in against Minnesota. The last 2 times he's pitched against them, he's been almost near perfect. I mean, took a no-hitter into the 7th inning one time, allowed just 1 hit in his second start. So when you look at the 2 complete games, the 18 innings, he's had 17 strikeouts, just 4 hits. He has totally dominated that lineup. Now he's going to move on and go against the Boston Red Sox. Joe Kelly will be his opponent tonight on the mound, and the Indians are going to try and win the series if they can win this game tonight.
And Corey Kluber needs just 7 strikeouts tonight to reach the 200 strikeout mark for the season. When we come back, Andre Knott joins us to talk about Jason Kipnis and his return to the starting lineup. Cleveland Indians baseball is brought to you by WB Mason, the official office supplier of the Cleveland Indians. By McDonald's, I'm loving it. By your local Toyota dealers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. And by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk, proud sponsors of the Cleveland Indians. Call 1-800-ELK, Ohio. Beautiful night here at Fenway Park in Boston for the finale of this 3-game series. Glad to have you with us. Indians have Jason Kipnis back in the starting lineup tonight in his leadoff position. And with more on that, let's go down to Andre Nutt.
Well, for Jason Kipnis, he did not want to go on the DL, but he knew at some point in time that the way his shoulder was feeling, he was going to have to do it. He feels great after 16 days of not playing, and he says he's going to be good for the rest of the season. Something else he's excited about, he kind of likes this team he's come back to play with. He likes the energy they're playing with at this point in time.
There's a lot of energy in this clubhouse right now. I got to step back. I got to give other guys an opportunity, and I got to watch and help where I could, give a little tidbits or advice to Hosey or Frankie and whoever it was. And I learned that we got some more fight. We have a little bit more character than I thought we did. We weren't playing before. We had that little slump, and we were rolling over too easy. And I thought now we're a tougher team to beat. It's going to take a lot more to beat us, and I think that's the way it should be.
You know, sometimes when you take a step back and you're an everyday ball player and you get a chance to observe like he did, you don't want to do it on the disabled list, but you get to relax a little bit. You watch how the guys play, and there is a lot more energy on this ball club, and he's got to be thrilled to be back in, to be a part of it. He's back in that leadoff spot, but because he's there, it doesn't mean Ramirez isn't going to be in the lineup because he's in left field today.
That'll be interesting to watch. Ramirez in left playing the Green Monster. He'll be batting ninth as Kipnis leads off for Cleveland. Can Corey Kluber pitch the Indians to a series win here at Fenway Park in Boston? Can he get to 200 strikeouts on the year? The answer to those questions are coming up next. Ready for baseball tonight here at Fenway. Red Sox take the field behind right-hander Joe Kelly, who will be making his 20th start of the season. Let's take a look at the lineup he will face for Terry Francona and the Tribe, brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Jason Kipnis back in the leadoff spot. He's always swung the bat well here at Fenway. Francisco Lindor batting second, then Michael Brantley is third, DHing once again. Santana, Chisenhall, and Gomes occupy the middle third. Abraham Almonte, Giovanni Urshela, and Jose Ramirez round it out.
And Joe Kelly is going to be the Northern Ohio Honda dealer starting pitcher today for Boston. Kelly making his 20th start of the season. He was sent down in June down to AAA, and he made 5 or 6 starts down there. But since being back, he's 3-1 in his 5 starts. He's won his last 3 starts. He has struggled a little bit this year. He's just under 100 innings, 99 2/3, giving up 114 hits. He has made 1 start in his career against the Indians. That came back in June 10th of 2012 when he was a St. Louis Cardinal. He had a no decision. He went 5 innings. And that's basically what he is. He's between a 5 and 6 inning pitcher. He does throw a lot of pitches, and he will challenge the hitters. Let's check out the defense behind him, which is brought to you by Jeep. It'll be Diasa in left field, Bradley Jr. in center, Castillo in right, Sandoval at third, Holt is at short, Rutledge at second, Shaw is at first, Hannigan doing the catching.
Mark Wagner has the plate tonight. Marty Foster at first. Mike Winters, your crew chief, is at second. Mike McClinsky down at third. Our window systems, game time temperature 83 degrees. Calm conditions here at Fenway. If anything, we might have a very light breeze that will help, won't hurt the ball out toward left field. But otherwise, just delightful. Jason Kipnis makes his way to home plate. Kipnis did have a pinch hit appearance late in the ball game last night. But the American League leader in batting average takes a called strike. Stat of the game brought to you by Buick. Jason maintaining a lead over Prince Fielder. You see Michael Brantley moving in to the top 5 as well. A ball and a strike. When Kipnis went on the DL, he was in a little bit of a slump. Was in an 0 for 11 spill. Now the wind on the 2-1 from Kelly. Foul back out of play.
Primarily a fastball pitcher. Doesn't have much of a breaking ball, but his first pitch took a fastball, and he followed with a changeup, and then the next 2 fastballs. But like I said, you know, he's usually between a 5 and 6 inning pitcher, and that's because he does throw a lot of pitches.
Got him looking. And Kipnis knew it.
Came back inside. That was a fastball in the inside corner. He hit his target. Hannigan goes inside. It has just a little comeback to it. Locked him up. He was not looking for that pitch.
Francisco Lindor with a hit in each of the first 2 games of the series. Takes low, ball 1. Lindor socks one to deep center. Bradley racing back. It's over his head. And he makes an incredible catch. Jackie Bradley Jr. just stole extra bases from Francisco Lindor. He literally threw his glove up high in the air on a dead run. And made the catch.
That was over his opposite shoulder. He had to turn his back to home plate and took off. And I mean, he throws the glove up and it goes right in the middle of it. What a catch on the run. That is a very, I mean, degree of difficulty is a 10. Look at it's over his other shoulder, but he did everything in his power and boy, right into the glove.
Look Joe at that. Kelly saying, I love it.
That's a very impressive catch.
Michael Brantley takes a look at ball one outside. Dave Dombrowski, who was just hired to oversee baseball operations for the Boston Red Sox, said in his press conference earlier today here at Fenway that one of the things he's really excited about is the young outfielders that the Red Sox have with Castillo, with Bradley, Mookie Betts.
Yeah, they have some speed. They could certainly cover some ground.
There is Dave, so long a fixture for the past decade with the Detroit Tigers. Now will oversee baseball operations here with the Red Sox. Says he will hire a general manager, but he said he doesn't have a timetable for that. But he'll begin that process shortly. Pitches outside to Michael Brantley. One thing you know for sure, a guy like Dombrowski is always prepared. He's got that quote unquote short list with him.
Oh, I'm sure he does. I think that's why he wanted to find something. Now when he starts, he'll get an opportunity for the next 6 weeks to go through this whole organization and then make his own judgment throughout and go from there. So he'll have a head start on the offseason.
The 2-1 pitch. Brantley fouls it back. Michael 3 for 9 in the series with a home run. And here at Fenway Park, he's hit in 6 consecutive games. 17 out of the 20 he has played in his career. I think a guy like Brantley, the way he swings the bat, this park is sort of tailored to his style because he can go the other way.
Right.
Take advantage of the spacious right field with doubles. Down and in.
Yeah, hit the ball where it's pitched. He's good in every park. But this has always been a good park to come in and hit. It's got a nice backdrop for you to see.
And the payoff pitch. Right back up the gut. Nice backhanded stop by Rutledge. And the Indians go 1-2-3 thanks to an amazing play in center field by Jackie Bradley Jr. Now the Red Sox are coming to bat. Torey Lovullo's starting lineup for the Red Sox tonight, brought to you by Toyota. Alejandro De Aza, you just saw him in the on-deck circle. He'll lead it off. Brock Holt batting second. Pablo Sandoval will hit third. David Ortiz has hit in 10 straight. He'll bat cleanup. Travis Shaw, he's hotter than Ortiz. He'll hit fifth. Brusney Castillo will bat sixth. Then it's Jackie Bradley Jr., Ryan Hannigan, and Josh Rutledge.
And Corey Kluber is our Northern Ohio Honda dealer starting pitcher, coming off 2 great starts, 2 consecutive complete game wins against the Minnesota Twins. Here you'll see his rankings in the American League, first in starts.
De Aza takes a called strike.
And in innings, complete games, this guy is still one of the toughest pitchers you're going to face in the league.
Foul back. It's quickly 0-2.
He is making his 5th start against the Red Sox. He had 2 last year. He did not have a win or a loss in the 2 games. 10 hits in his 11 2/3 innings and 8 strikeouts.
Now the 0-2. Just missed outside. Since the start of last year, Kluber leads all of baseball with 462 strikeouts. Breaking ball hit toward left center. And Jose Ramirez in his left field debut makes the play for out number 1.
Let's check that defense for you. Brought to you by Jeep. And you're right. He makes his first start out there and gets the first ball hit to him. Go figure that out. Almonte is in center. Chisenhall in right. Urshela at third. Lindor at short. Kipnis is at second. Santana at first with Gomes doing the catching. Defense brought to you by Jeep.
So Jose Ramirez has played mostly second base and shortstop, getting the start in left field tonight. Handled that first one with no problem.
Well, the one thing that if there will be a problem tonight, it's taking charge as a center fielder. He's got to be listening, you know, because I'm sure he's out there going to want to get to everything he can. And remember, he can run very quick out there, so Almonte is going to have to call him off if he feels he can catch it. And Ramirez is going to have to listen. Other than that, I think he'll be just fine.
Pitch over the outside corner, a strike, 1-1. Brad Mills was hitting fungos off the green monster during batting practice for Ramirez to at least get a little practice, see what the ball does coming off the wall, because there's so many different parts to that wall, and it takes a different hop if it's hit off the high part of the fence or if it's hit off the scoreboard. Ground ball routine, big hop for Lindor. 2 down. Keys to the game are brought to you by Wayside Furniture. For Corey Kluber, as always, fastball command, and for the bats, attack the fastball of Joe Kelly. Pablo Sandoval. Just 2 for 9 in the series. Out of play. Sandoval had a 9-game hitting streak back in June. But just has not really set the world on fire offensively this year.
Well, for him coming to a new league, going from that West Coast in the National League, coming to the American League East, I'm sure getting to know all the pitchers has something to do with it. But this guy is a very aggressive hitter. He likes to swing at everything. You can see at home he's hitting .310 and about 100 points different on the road. But he does not like to take many pitches. He's only walked 22 times on the year.
Kluber ties him up, strikes him out, ends the inning. Red Sox go 1-2-3 Scoreless after 1 at Fenway. Second inning at Fenway, no score. For Cleveland, Carlos Santana, Lonnie Chisenhall, and Yan Gomes coming up. Carlos Santana looks at a strike over the outside corner. Missed outside with that pitch. Right down Broadway.
Now with 2 strikes, you're going to see Sandoval moving over to the right side. It's funny, until they get to 2, they kept Holt over there, the shortstop. Now he moves back to the shortstop side, and Sandoval goes over.
Santana taking a little bit outside, 2-2. Joe Kelly, born in Anaheim, California. Santana pops one up on the infield. First baseman Travis Shaw makes the catch. 1 away. Arcia in the driver's seat. Shows you that the Yankees have the best record when they score first, and they've done it a lot. The Indians are second best record-wise. And only 48 times on the year have they been able to get that first run across.
Yeah, if they could do it more, it would be great. I'm sure that the pitching staff would love it. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to do it that much. It's one of the first breaking balls I have seen. It comes on the first pitch.
Good breaking ball. That one dropped in for a strike against Lonnie Chisenhall. Lonnie had a terrific game in the series opener. He went 2 for 4 with a home run, drove in 3 runs. Missed outside. Kelly's got a good fastball in terms of velocity. first month of the season, he had the highest average fastball velocity of any pitcher in baseball.
Well, he throws it a lot. But for this hitter, Chisenhall, he's coming with all breaking stuff, which is hard to believe because I think Lonnie's a better off-speed hitter. Sometimes he has a tough time to catch up to the fastball.
That 3-1 heater right down the middle, 97 miles an hour. Kelly's average fastball velocity in April was 96.5. That was the average.
He's not a big guy.
And the 3-2. Fastball low and away. And the Indians have their first base runner with one out here in the second inning.
Well, live Indians baseball is back in 2015 with the MLB.com at bat on your smartphone or tablet. You can stay connected with live radio broadcasts, stats, breaking news, and more. Download MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball.
Yan Gomes played in the series opener, was 0 for 3, did walk and scored a run. And off speed pitch, drops in for a strike. And a foul back by Gomes. Joe Kelly, originally a St. Louis Cardinal. He was a 98th overall player drafted in the 09 draft, and 5 years later at the trading deadline, St. Louis traded him to Boston for John Lackey. Alan Craig also came in that deal.
I was going to say Alan Craig came, and they thought they were going to get another right-handed hitting first baseman. But boy, as he struggled and was optioned out. He fell out of touch, didn't he?
Really? I mean,
this was a guy that you thought when he was with the Cardinals was a great right-handed hitter. He was a clutch hitter, could drive in runs. Comes over here and just couldn't cut it. And Kelly has struggled. And Lackey, look at him. He's got, I think, tied for the most home wins over in the National League in St. Louis.
Gomes fouls it back out of play. Yeah, Alan Craig in 2013 batted .315 for St. Louis.
You know, when that trade was made, people were saying, oh man, Boston got the best of that deal. But boy, you look at it now and it's the exact opposite.
The 1-2 pitch, fired to first instead. Upstairs with that pitch. Throw to first again. Chisenhall back safely. You may have noticed a moment ago he had that shot of Terry Francona. He wasn't just talking to casual fans in the seats, but this ballpark is so close that's General Manager Chris Antonetti with his elbow on the dugout and Derek Falvey right in front of him, Director of Baseball Operations for the Indians. So He's literally got them at arm's length from where he stands in the Indians dugout. So if he's got a question or if they've got a comment. Sandoval to second for one, on to first. Hits an inning-ending double play. Middle of the second, no score at Fenway.
At Toyota on Wednesday, August 26th, the Indians will host the Brewers. The State of the Tribe Town shirt was designed by a fan in an online contest earlier this year. Just go to Indians.com for the tickets.
David Ortiz to lead off here in the bottom of the second for Boston. He's gone 3 for 8 so far against the Indians with 2 doubles. Corey Kluber coming off a 1-2-3 first inning. Goes to work with a pitch up and away, ball 1. Takes a strike. Ortiz got Boston rolling last night with a ball he roped down into the right field corner nearly for a home run. It hit the top of the short wall and stayed in the park for an RBI double.
Yeah, that gave them their first run in the first, and they were off and running.
Trying to send this one to deep right field. Back is Chisenhall on the track at the wall, leaps up. It is gone. And David Ortiz with his 26th home run of the season puts Boston on top early.
The 14th home run allowed by Corey. And it is the 26th for Ortiz. He went fastball in. He didn't quite get it in there. He got underneath it. Let's see. Chisenhall gets back and just couldn't do it. You see that wall's just at an in-between height. That's right about the shoulders. You have to put a hand on top and try and lift your way up. He had time to get back there, but that one was in the bullpen. And again, he will give Boston the lead early.
Now Travis Shaw looks at ball 1 outside. The Indians have not figured out a way to get Shaw out. He's 6 for 8 with a home run in the series. And as you take a look at our Levin Furniture player profile on Travis Shaw, it's an interesting relationship between Travis and his father Jeff, who we told you before pitched for the Indians. They go over his at bats after games, and Jeff will give him the pitcher's
Gotcha.
sort of perspective.
Right.
Here's what they're trying to do to you. This is why they're trying to do it to you. And so maybe that gives Travis a little bit of an advantage because he's been able to work through things with that understanding of what the pitcher's trying to do against him.
It certainly doesn't hurt. But again, he's facing all these guys for the first time. So he's got to get up there and you got to have a clue about hitting, and he certainly does. He's got a nice swing. From what I understand, they've added this leg kick for him.
Drives this one deep to left. Ramirez looking up, and that is out of here. Back-to-back solo jacks for Boston.
I'll tell you what, this young man is making a statement here in Boston, and this crowd is just loving it. It's his 7th hit here in the 3rd game, and 2 of them have left the yard, and this one was the opposite field.
Well, you talked about that leg kick. It's a timing mechanism.
Yep.
He gets that foot down, and man, everything is in sync right now.
It sure is. That was a low heater. That was down around the knees, if not below. But watch where he gets that ball, and you know he shoots at the opposite field. And worst comes to worst, if it doesn't get over the wall, it certainly goes off of it. It's going to be a lot of doubles that way. Really good approach. He had a base hit to left field last night.
So the Red Sox play long ball to take the early 2-0 lead. Rusney Castillo takes a big hack, comes up empty. Rusney Castillo is 1 for 3 in the series. He scored a couple of runs. And Castillo down on strikes. He went around. 1 down here in the 2nd inning. You know, one of the things that Dave Dombrowski mentioned today at his press conference is that he inherits a club that's in pretty good shape as far as their young players. And even Red Sox owner John Henry commented that Ben Cherington, the outgoing general manager, did a good job by not trading away prospects this year when it would have been easy to say, hey, let's win now. And all of a sudden you maybe acquire some players, but you maybe at the sake of tomorrow, at the sake of the future. And right now the future of this organization, even though they're in last place, it looks pretty good going forward because of the number of good talented young position players they have. Jackie Bradley drives one to deep right. Back is Chisenhall. He leaps up and makes a terrific catch right in front of the wall for out number 2. Boy, that baby was on its way, but Lonnie Chisenhall, after coming up short on the ball that was hit by David Ortiz, he got back, he leaped high in the air and made a nice catch here.
Yeah, he had to get back, and you see right there, you're lost out there. There's a lot of room. And you're getting close to the fence. He took one leap, and you see he was able to come down. He thought he was going to hit the wall, but he still was able to make the catch. Not an easy thing to do out there. That's a tough right field to play.
And with 2 down, Ryan Hannigan, the batter. Swing and a miss. Outside with it, 1-1. The 2-1 to Hannigan. Foul back. back. Ryan Hannigan was an outfielder, third baseman at Division II Rollins College in Orlando, Florida.
Okay. Who was down there at Rollins? Was it John Hart or Dan O'Dowd? Or I think it might have been one of those two guys from Rollins. There it is. There's the slider.
I can tell you who was at Rollins College. Mike Epich, who was used to work for the Indians and was an umpire at fantasy camp for years.
Okay.
Red Sox manager Wally entertaining folks up at the Green Monster. Abraham Almonte leading off here in the third, 1 out of 6 in the series with a run batted in. Out of play.
Told you Kelly won his last 3 starts he's pitched. One coming against Seattle, one coming against Detroit, and one against Tampa.
Missed outside with that. Almonte, then Giovanni Urshela and Jose Ramirez here in the third for Cleveland. Missed inside with it.
He's deep there. Every hitter seems like 4, 5, 6 pitches every hitter.
I guess that's why he doesn't get deep into many games.
Yeah, that's true.
Right back to him, and Almonte can't believe it. One away. Off the bat, he's thinking that's in center field. I've got a base hit, and then
goes
Kelly,
right into his glove, but there's not much you can do.
Kelly cut it off. Here's the injury report brought to you by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk. Brian Mitchell on the 7-day concussion DL for New York, and he has a very very fortunate individual after that line drive that struck him the other night. Chris Johnson has swelling in the hand from the insect bite that he got in Minnesota, so he's on the DL. Said he had trouble gripping a ball or a bat, so. Giovanni Urshela, after missing a few games with a shoulder that had been bothering him, back in the lineup. Down low. 2 balls, no strikes. Out of play. Missed away with it, 3-1.
Yeah, if I'm a hitter, and this is going through the first time, I'd make this guy, I'd take all his off-speed pitches, his breaking ball, his changeup, and I'd sit on the fastball. He hasn't proven he can throw that anything else for strikes consistently.
Now there was the fastball. Urshela wanted to get after it, but it was up out of the strike zone, but he couldn't help himself.
Helped him out.
It's now full count. Yeah, I'm with you. If he happens to drop a curveball in for a strike, well,
it's
then
early.
you tip your cap.
Yeah, it's early in the count, but make him prove he can throw it consistently before you have to get after it and start swinging at it.
Popped him up. Shallow right. In comes Castillo. 2 down. Oh, if you missed it, this was Brian Mitchell, the Yankees against Minnesota. Wow. It was obviously a very scary moment. And at the time, the good news was he was able to get up. He was able to walk off under his own power.
Yeah, that is always scary because, you know, you see that. And how many times do we see just near misses? You know, where balls will get by into center field for a base hit, or a guy will knock it down.
And the next day, of course, I saw a story that Major League Baseball is next year they're going to come out with you know, protection devices for pitchers, and you know, and I applaud that. But at the same time, that ball hit him in the face.
Right. There's not a whole lot you can do.
Yeah.
Right. We saw Carrasco earlier this year.
There are certain inherent dangers in the game.
And that's one of them.
Yeah. Jose Ramirez getting the start tonight in left field. Handled his first fly ball without incident. Offensively, though, he's just mired in a slump right now. Picked up a hit last night, snapped a long offer. He's 1 out of 20 on the road trip. Overall, 1 for his last 23, and that 1 for 23 followed a really hot spell where he was getting on base. He was making things happen.
Well, a lot of times when he was getting on base, man, if you recall, he was walking a lot.
Think he's gotten too aggressive?
No, not necessarily. Look at that. Oh, I thought that looked like it was in slow motion. No, I don't think that's his style of hitting. I think a lot of the people that were attacking him were missing. He wasn't swinging the bat, and he you know, was getting on base. But you got to make this guy hit his way on. You can't walk him. Serve this one down, and you can see just foul. Sandoval, he played umpire. He signaled foul.
Just seems like a lot of pitchers are elevating balls in the strike zone and saying, okay, hit it in the air.
Well, that's exactly what you want him to do. I mean, you've got him if you can get him to hit it in the air, because he's not going to drive it out of the ballpark. He may, you know, run into one every blue moon, but, you know, for the most part, when you get him to hit it in the air, he's doing you a favor. He's got to hit the ball line drive and on the ground and use his speed.
Up the middle. Cut off by Holt. Gets rid of it in a hurry. And the Indians go 1-2-3. We'll go to the bottom of the third at Fenway. 2-0 Boston. Brought to you by Miller Lite. 2-0 Boston as we roll on to the bottom half of the third inning. Josh Rutledge to lead it off. Pops the first pitch to shallow center. Coming hard is Almonte, and he makes the grab. One down. Jose Ramirez making his first start in left field tonight. With more on that, let's go down to Andre.
Terry Francona says, look, he's not that concerned with Jose Ramirez in left field. He goes, he's a good athlete. He's played it a little bit down in AAA. And he says the other thing is this. He goes, at some point in time, he still thinks Jose Ramirez can be an everyday player. He goes, the thing is, he's going to have to find a position, or he's going to have to become a guy like Mike Aviles and play all these. Before the end of the year, he says we may see him in center, we may see him in right, we may see him at second, first, short, and third, because he wants to find out if he can do all those things before the season's over.
Wow, I want to see him play first. The infielders are going to have a small target to aim at. He's quick. He has very quick feet. I can see him out there running around in the outfield.
Deaza trying to bloop one in, but Kipnis gets back to grab it. One down, or two down. That'll bring up Brock Holt. Now Brock Holt is the super utility man. He plays everywhere. Right now he's playing second base most of the time with Dustin Pedroia out of the lineup on the DL, but tonight he's in there at shortstop. Can also play third. Played first base some as well. This year's he has started 38 games at second, 16 in right field, 15 at third base, 6 games in left. This is his 7th start at shortstop, 5 games at first base, and 2 in center field.
I think maybe it's a fact that they want to give Bogaerts a day off against a tough right-hander like this and put the lefty in there. And you don't see Ramirez in there tonight. He was playing left field. You want to keep those right-handed bats out of there with the Kluber slider. And the 2 hits given up have come to the left-handers.
That's his 4th strikeout of the night as Holt goes down swinging. But Boston has swung their way to a 2-0 lead through 3. Top of the order due up for Cleveland. Matt Underwood, Rick Manning, Andre Knott. And we're happy to be joined up in the booth now by Indian Special Assistant John McDonald. How you doing, bud?
Fantastic. How are you guys?
Oh, we're great.
You're right at home here, aren't you?
Got a nice bird's eye view.
A little high. Off center.
That's all right.
Jason Kipnis first ball swinging. A bouncer to Shaw. A good flip to first. Quick out.
Yeah, I was going to say, you come up here and it's a 1 pitch, 1 out.
Yeah, that's not a good thing. I won't be up here very long if this keeps on happening.
So East Lyme, Connecticut, does that count you as a New Englander?
It does. It does. We're 2 hours from Fenway and 2 hours the other way to Yankee Stadium. So there's a lot of rivalries in our town, which was pretty nice. A lot of baseball fans.
Right in between, huh? Were they more Red Sox or Yankees?
No, we were split down the middle.
Right down the middle, 50-50?
You could choose up sides in any sport or activity you were playing by just go Red Sox, Yankees, and you'll get 5-5 or 8-8. It didn't matter.
And you were a Red Sox or a Yankee fan?
I grew up a Yankee fan, but we also grew up coming to games here in Fenway. It was, we liked coming to baseball games. So we went down and for the Yankees. We went down there, and we came up here to more watch baseball than to.
It's a great park to watch from, isn't it?
Oh, so much fun. So much fun coming here as a kid. And now seeing how much it's changed over the years, and it just keeps on getting better.
Francisco Lindor looks at a ball down low. 1 ball, 1 strike, 1 out here in the 4th inning. You told me about him in spring training. I think I saw you once since spring training. He's been better, I think, than we even imagined he was going to be. Francisco Lindor I'm talking about.
Well, he's taken it upon himself to really work, and he wants to be a very good baseball player. He wants to be one of the best at his craft. He loves playing shortstop, and just by watching him do his ground ball work today, and he's not satisfied with what's going on this year. He's having a pretty good year.
Well, he gets into one here, and that's going to head to the triangle, cut off nicely by Bradley, and he's going to hold him to a long.
I'll tell you what, he robbed him from a double the last time up and takes him from another one this time. Now, do you have the DirecTV and you get the chance to watch these guys play?
Yeah, watch a lot of games at home. On
he's surprised me with his bat, and he's got a little pop in it from the left and the right side, more than I ever thought he had.
He does. And as he's figuring this out, I don't think the game is surprising him as much. He's slowing it down. He's slowing these pitchers down. He's more in control of his at bats. He's not swinging out as many pitches down in the zone as you guys have been watching as well. And he's deliberate and swinging the bat hard when the ball's in the strike zone.
All we were able to do is hear things from that. Word travels from the minor leagues, but believe me, baseball maturity, he's beyond his years.
He is. I think we still, as an organization, you have to know he's 22, and
right.
He's going to make. There's mistakes that he's going to make, and there are certain things that the game is still going to speed up on him. He's going to be tired, and he's not used to playing more games this year than he's ever played. And the great thing about it is he's doing a good job so far of learning from his mistakes and not wanting them to happen again.
I'll tell you what, since he's been here, he was called up, and then Urshela on the left side. It's really settled down, this defense.
Nice ball hit to left by Brantley. Boy, he takes that ball the other way with such ease, almost effortlessly. Like I'm going to flip this right by you, and he does. So back-to-back singles has the Indians threatening now here in the 4th.
Well, there you go. That was a great pitch down and away, and then Brantley just stays on it. That's what he does so well. He never gets out of his mode. He just stays in it, takes what the pitcher gives him, and that was a base hit to left field.
He swings easy. The ball just jumps off his bat, though, doesn't it?
It sure does. I mean, if you try and pitch him inside, he'll turn on it. He uses the whole field. That surprises me. Only 29 hits were to left field. I thought there would be more.
Carlos Santana popped up on the infield his first time up. John, the other thing that's been interesting to watch develop with Francisco Lindor in particular is that he's a guy that everybody's been talking about for a couple of years. Everybody's been waiting for him. So there's a lot of hype that comes with him. And yet Terry Francona has handled him interestingly. I mean, it hasn't been all rainbow and sunshine.
No,
when he makes mistakes, Terry's quick to point it out. I think he's tried to be hard on him just to make him understand that it's not always going to be this easy.
Well, I think that's also because of the way Frankie is and how he's spoken up about wanting to be great, wanting to be a leader. And if you're gonna speak about those things, and I think there's a responsibility that comes along with it, and your manager being critical of the things that you do and expecting more from you. And I think he should want to expect more from himself. And it's great that Tito does expect those things, and you're already seeing it translated in his game and in his preparation. The energy that he's bringing to the ballpark every day on the field. I think you've seen an uptick in the energy throughout the lineups that have been going out there the last couple of weeks. You know, there's such another added dimension to this ball club with bringing up Gio and Frankie and both their expectations.
Bouncing ball to first. Shaw has it. Goes to second. There's one back to first.
Wow, nice double play.
Boy, the Red Sox able to turn two. Nicely done by Shaw at first. And just like that, Joe Kelly in Boston gets out of a jam here in the fourth. It remains Red Sox 2, Indians nothing. For a chance to have one of your pictures shown during our telecast. It's all courtesy of T-Mobile. We're visiting with John McDonald, Indian Special Assistant, who's with the ball club here at Fenway Park here in Boston. And, you get out, you see a lot of the minor league clubs, and I understand you're going to be pinch hitting on radio coming up here, too.
Yeah, Hammy's taking a couple of days off in Toronto.
He doesn't want to go north of the border. You played up there, so he wants to send you up.
I'm excited to go up there.
It should be fun.
Fun time to be up in Toronto.
Boy,
go up there, take some wins away from them.
They have a nice team going right now, huh? They've been hot.
They do. They've been playing
11 in a row.
Good baseball, and unfortunately, I think for them, the Yankees have caught fire again. Although they went in through their slump, and now they've won some games. But
it should be an interesting September because they're going to play them, I believe, about 8 or 9 more times, maybe 7 times.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple of guys up there, and they talked about how the city is right now. It's pretty electric. It's reminiscent of 92, 93
when they were drawing 4 million people.
I mean, they sold out. They sold like 45,000 tickets on a Tuesday or Wednesday night last week, which is impressive. You just don't do that. And they sold out all 3 days in a row on a weekend series, which hasn't happened in a long time.
Well, I remember those years where they were packing them in and they were winning World Series. It was an exciting place to be.
Corey Kluber deals. Sandoval a little late with that swing, 2-2. So 2 years ago, you got to go back to Cleveland, spend time with the Indians organization. And then you went back out sort of looking for a new spot. I think you ended up in Pittsburgh, but ultimately back here in Boston for a World Championship run. What was that experience like? Do it here of all places.
It was a kind of surreal, just because you living here now. I would have loved to have played here, and then to get an opportunity to come to a team with a month to go in the season that's in first place, that everybody on that team and in the organization expects to go deep into the playoffs, and they weren't afraid to talk about winning a championship. And I think that's one of the common things on the teams that win. They don't just it just doesn't happen. It's something that's bred throughout the year in the organization. You talk about winning. You preach it to younger players, and the expectation is that you're going to go out and win every night. And that's a great feeling coming to the ballpark. The fans felt it. I'll tell you what, coming here for Game 6 of the World Series, knowing that they had nobody in their lifetime had seen a home World Series clinching victory.
That's right.
And the atmosphere in this ballpark. I think it was an 8 o'clock start, and I'd come out, whatever it was, I came out a little early, and everyone was in their seats, and it was loud. And they were just, the fans, you felt that they were not going to let our club leave without a win that night. And that was a special night, especially with everything that went on that year, and you know what the effort that the players on that team all year put into giving back to the community and the connection with the city was something that I had never seen that on a team before, and how they felt, the passion that the players had for their city that they were playing for.
Just a magical year.
Kluber's 2-2 to Sandoval.
Yeah, but the winning is what resonates. You know, just those guys did not. You know, they didn't believe, kind of like, you know, Cleveland in the 90s. And, you know, they felt like they were going to win every night. It didn't happen, but that was the attitude. And you're not surprised that team kept on going back to the postseason.
Sandoval socks one to deep center. Almonte racing back. It's over his head and off the wall. And into second base with leadoff double is Pablo Sandoval on a 9-pitch at bat, and eventually he got into one.
Yeah, he picked on a fastball. Looked like it was elevated a little bit. He was able to catch up to it and went straight away center off the wall straight away. That was his middle third inside. He gets on top of it and gives it a ride. Put a good swing on it. Sandoval going to get his 19th double.
Mac, when you look at the Indians pitching staff overall and what they've been able to do this year, there's a lot of strikeouts. I mean, when you talk about Carrasco and Salazar and obviously Corey Kluber, they can punch a lot of people out, but they don't walk a lot of guys either. So the defense is involved. It's just a lot of times they get to watch the hitter just walk back to the dugout.
Yeah, that's not such a bad thing. Getting outs, you obviously like your pitchers, you know, when they can, getting early contact and going deeper into the games, which our guys do a great job of getting deep into the game.
Yeah.
Especially lately.
Yes. Yeah, well, within the mindset that gives the infielders that they're going to get the ball, they're consistently ready for it, and you're not going deep into counts. And the walks help out. I think you're definitely okay with a lot of strikeouts if there isn't a lot of walks to go along with it. So you keep your rhythm in the field, and for everybody, outfielders too, keeping your rhythm and timing, and still expecting the ball to get hit to you rather than just looking for that punch out.
I think that's the thing that Salazar is starting to understand now. He's going away from the strikeout. Let's go. Let's pitch to contact and see what happens. But you know, their stuff is so good, they get a lot of swings and misses.
And I think that's why everybody's still excited about the group that's here with the starting pitching, the controlled starting pitching. That they're going to be here for a little while.
Yes.
That's exciting. Anyone that's an Indians fan that's watching, this is a team that's going to win a lot of baseball games.
Ortiz cuts and misses. Chase one down and in. Corey Kluber has his 5th strikeout of the night. One down.
It's going to be our Circle K strikeout, and this is a slider that Ortiz is not going to see many times. This one down out of the zone, and you know he's starting to cheat on the fastball because Kluber can get it by him. And you'll see a swing at a ball and not even close, but he gets the strikeout and keeps the runner at second base.
We'll bring up Travis Shaw.
How about this kid? He's hit everything in sight.
7 for 9 in the series, 2 home runs.
He's done a little bit of everything. He's pulled the ball, stayed on balls up the middle. That last at bat, going the other way.
And then Kluber tries to push one in on him.
It's not a whole lot of video to watch to be able to prepare for a hero like Shaw. You see him a couple of games. You talk to the pitchers that faced him already. You try to figure out how you're going to get him out, and you don't really know yet.
Well, he's such a big kid, and obviously with that kind of natural left-handed power swing, if you make a mistake in his nitro zone, man, he's not missing it right now.
Well, the way Salazar got him out after he threw a changeup and he hit it out in right field, he didn't see any changeups or off-speed pitches the rest of the game. It was all power, and he struck him out twice after that. So I'd say stay with the hard stuff, pound him inside, move it up and down.
2-1 to count with Rusney Castillo waiting on deck. There's Sandoval with a leadoff double. Hot play to the left. 2 balls, 2 strikes. You know, something else that we noticed, Johnny, I think we were in Oakland, Rick, or Urshela and Lindor were on the left side of the infield, and they were communicating with each pitch as to, hey, move over, take a step in, based on what the pitch was going to be thrown. It was interesting to see the two of them work together.
I mean, you just saw Lindor turn around to Ramirez in left field and move him in a little bit too. It's a good bit of communication these guys have been working on
Shaw
throughout
chases.
the early part of their careers.
And that's strikeout number 6 for Kluber, 2 down.
There's a lot of confidence that comes along with knowing where the guy to your right and left is going to be, and when they're moving you to allow you to be a little bit more sure of what your positioning is. And anytime you can take, the more Gio can move toward shortstop, is the easier it's going to make for Lindor to go to his left. And
well, the way they set defensive now, setups, it's unbelievable where they put 3 on one side and they're moving guys over on different pitch counts.
Yeah, sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder because you don't know who's going to go for the ball. When 3 guys are bunched on one side and the ball goes in between, who's going to call them off? Because normally there's not a lot of calling off on ground balls in the infield.
Right.
Castillo spanks it in the left field, charging hard Ramirez, and he gets off a good throw to the cutoff man quickly, as Sandoval had to hold at third.
Well, that's one thing here in left field. If you get a base hit, many times a guy's not going to score, especially if you're a below average runner like Sandoval. And the key for Ramirez out there playing, charge it like you're an infielder and just get it into your cutoff man.
And with 2 outs there, Frankie also knows that. He knows that if a base hit gets between short and third, that he's not going to be able to send him. But if a base hit goes up the middle, that's going to be an RBI.
Right.
So they played it that way. He played a little bit more up the middle, and if it did get hit hard in that hole, we were okay with that. That was more of a predetermined set, which is the only ballpark that you play it that way.
Right. Here, with the bulk of the ballpark going towards right field, as center fielder, you can play almost everybody over in right center and use the wall as your friend.
Jackie Bradley almost drove one out of here his last time up. Monty Chisnall made a fine play in deep right field, leaping up on the track.
I thought Frankie had a 1-out triple there in the first.
Well, I was just going to say, it's only fair that Bradley got robbed after what he did to Lindor. That was an unbelievable play.
Let's hope he gets robbed right here.
Kluber deals, and a big swing and a miss. This is the play you were talking about, Mac.
Yeah, highway. That he had to go over his other shoulder. It was like Gumby making that catch.
He's one of the better center fielders in the game.
A terrific play. Yeah, they have some speed out there. I want to see if they're going to send Castillo from first here, and if they will throw through. You have no speed at third. Good breaking ball.
Well, and guys, now Corey Kluber is 1 strike away from his 200th strikeout of the season. Would put him back-to-back seasons with 200 strikeouts.
How many did he have last year?
245, I believe.
Almost chased, but he did not.
I mean, to put you on the spot.
No,
there.
I can't remember, Mac, because I was looking.
It was either 245 or 265.
He had 269 last year. I can't remember because I was looking at all of the Indians' 200 strikeout guys, and some of these numbers are amazing. But now they're all jumbled up in my head. Sam McDowell, 325 strikeouts in 1965.
That's incredible.
2-2 pitch. Hit well, deep left. Look out, Ramirez back. He is looking up. It is
out of here.
It hit the light pole and came back in. It's going to be a 3-run homer for Jackie Bradley Jr. He still doesn't know.
No, well, you don't. It looked like it hit the light tower, so you just go ahead and play on until the umpire, the third base umpire, He realized it was over the fence, and it ricocheted back in play. So the third home run for the Red Sox. This is a killer here, a 3-run homer. And again, over the monster in left field. There was a fastball away. He stayed on it. You see it hit the light tower, come right back down, and Ramirez just jumped on it like it was in play, which you should do. So that's a 3-runner, and that makes it a 5-0 ball game.
First time this year Kluber's given up 3 homers in a game. He gave up 2 to the Mariners in Seattle, and now Hannigan up and gone and almost completely out of here. The top row of the monster seats. Second time tonight the Red Sox go back-to-back against Kluber. And it's now 6-0 in the blink of an eye.
I think this is the first one. That was like a cutter. That's the first one that was not a fastball to be hit out of the ballpark. But boy, they're playing home run derby today. Something you never see from Kluber.
A career high 4 home runs allowed by the right-hander, who was on an absolute roll coming into this ball game tonight. We talked about it at the top of our telecast. I mean, back-to-back complete game efforts, only allowing 1 run. 3 out of his last 4, he'd gone 9 innings, giving up 1 run in all 3 of those games. But tonight, every pitch that's been in the zone the Red Sox could do some damage with, they have not missed. So it will bring up Josh Rutledge, the number 9 hitter, with 2 outs in the inning, and that's the killer too. You get to 2 outs, and with a guy like Corey Kluber, you're thinking, all right, he'll get out of this. But before he can, a 4 spot on the board.
Well, he's done it so many times. You've grown to expect it that he's just going to get he'll get the next. If he gives up a hit, he's going to get the next guy.
Low and away, 1 ball, 1 strike.
I think if we look back at it, and I'm sure we will before the night's over, the location of the fastballs that were hit. I think 3 of the home runs were fastballs, and the last one was a cutter.
Liner to second base, caught by Kipnis. Well, Mac, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate hanging out.
My pleasure. Sorry about the runs there. I was kind of hoping
it
was going to go the other way.
You should have had your glove with you today.
6-0 Boston after 4. By the Cleveland Clinic. Call for an appointment today. And by the game-changing all-new Ford F-150. The future is tough. 6-0 Boston. That happened in a hurry, didn't it?
Well, it really did. You know, the long ball. You know, you can see giving up a couple of solo shots where you make mistakes with maybe a location and they jump on it. But that 3-runner there with 2 strikes, that was a shocker. And then they go back-to-back twice in this game, something you would never expect from Kluber. But they have 6 hits and they have 6 runs, and all their runs have scored via the home run ball.
And other than the game where Danny Salazar shut them down, the Red Sox have been scoring a lot. So coming into tonight, not including this game, 56 runs in their last 5 games. They went from 9th in the American League in runs scored to 3rd. It's unbelievable in a 5-game stretch. Lonnie Chisnall leads off the 5th with a line drive single.
Well, look at that. 56 runs in the last 5 games, 82 hits. Yeah, you get healthy in a hurry.
That Torey Lovullo is some kind of manager.
423 with right. You know what? You could go down and manage and they'd be that way. If they're hitting like they're hitting.
Yan Gomes bounced into a double play at end of the 2nd inning. Tribe's already hit into 2 inning-ending double plays in the first 4 innings. You know, we saw a shot at Torey Lovullo in the Boston dugout. He spent a long time in the Indians organization as a minor league manager and working with the organization. And I just can't imagine the range of emotions that he's had to deal with in the last couple of weeks. First, John Farrell.
Right.
As the press conference announcing that he has lymphoma. He's going to have to miss the rest of the year. He's undergoing treatment. Then the club comes home and all of a sudden they start scoring runs at will. And then the announcement that, boom, bombshell. The general manager is out. Dave Dombrowski's in. People are asking him questions and he's probably going, wait a minute, folks, I'm just the interim manager here.
Well, he's it's all timing, you know, and it's all been when he's been around. And then the Indians come to town where he managed what, for about 7 years in their minor league system.
The 0-2 bounced in front of the plate. You know, Dennis Eckersley was on the postgame show last night here in Boston, and he said something that you always told me, which is, you know, when I played, they never saw the general manager. Half the time, you weren't even sure who he was.
Yeah.
Now the general managers are much more visible, and Dave Dombrowski may be as visible as any because he's with the club all the time. Now, I don't know if he'll have that same approach here. That ball skipped by Rutledge, and instead of another double play, the Indians will have runners at first and third.
That's a break. That is a huge break. I was looking at it, and it looked like a double play ball, and it gets under his glove.
The ball was hit hard, but it was right at him.
Yes, it was. That's got to be an error. He just flat out missed this ball. It was a one-hopper to him. There it is, and I don't know if his footwork got tangled or whatever, but that was not a good play by him, but it's a break for the Indians. Now they got first and third, nobody out. And take advantage. See if you can take advantage of this break right here.
So first and third, nobody out as Abraham Almonte comes to the plate.
Remember, this is a ballpark where no lead is safe. And you can always come back. We're only in the 5th inning here. Kelly's been known to give it up.
Rutledge.
There it is. There you go.
To Holt. To Shaw. Another double play. 3 times in 5 innings. The Tribe has hit into a double play. They do get a run home, but the rally really short-circuited.
Well, I'll tell you what, you give credit to Joe Kelly. He made his pitch right back and gave that same guy an opportunity to turn the double play, and he does this time. Even though it cost him a run, he went right back out there and he picked up his defense.
Going to bring up Giovanni Urshela. Anyway, the point I was trying to make before is that Dave Dombrowski's a guy who's always visible. He's always around. And I just wonder, Rick, if, with a little over a month ago, if the employees here, in regardless of what capacity they're in, if everybody sort of is on like red alert now because there's a new sheriff in town.
Well, I don't necessarily think they have to look at it that way. He's a good sheriff. He's here to get baseball straightened out. In this town, they're not used to losing. They've lost the last 2 years. They're in last place, and they feel the ownership said it's our duty to get this baseball team back to where it should be. And he's here for the baseball team. I think everybody else is going to be, very safe at what they do. I don't think they have anything to worry about. I think the fans of Boston will be very happy that, that they'll expect to see some changes. Maybe more so with the team.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone will have their eyes on Boston the minute the free agency period begins and the off-season activity gets underway.
What's their biggest need? Pitching. We saw Eduardo Rodriguez pitch a gem last night. He's a rookie, but they need a #1 starter. They lost John Lester. They didn't sign him back. They ended up trading him away last year to Oakland, if you remember, before the trade deadline, and then he went to the Chicago Cubs. So they had one that grew up in their organization. They don't have one anymore. They could use one. And there's some pretty good high-priced free agents coming out on the market this offseason.
Low, and Urshela draws a walk with 2 down. So the Indians have a base runner. And it's time now for a Mazda game break. Here's Al Pawlowski. Two down, a runner at first. Jose Ramirez stands in. A ground out his first time up. Urshela holds at first. Well, one thing's for sure. There will be changes on this ball club for Boston before they go to camp next year. This will be 3 times in the last 4 years that they finished in last place in the American League East. And it was made very clear today at their press conference that they don't want to just go for a championship. And Dombrowski talked about if you just kind of put all your eggs in one basket and you go for it, you might win it, but you also run the risk of not being competitive for a stretch of time too, because you end up depleting your organization of young players and that type of thing. So sounds like his job here is to get them back on top, but to continue to build what they've put together.
Right.
So I don't think you're going to be looking at a necessarily huge overhaul, but I think there's definitely some spots where they'll look to make some moves. Meanwhile, the Dodgers,
they take everybody.
They traded for
Chase Utley.
Chase Utley today.
I think you have to make over $10 million to play for the Dodgers. They don't take anybody
isn't it?
That's making minimum. You make $10 million, come on, we'll take you.
No, it was the Dodgers who kind of bailed out the Red Sox a few years ago.
Right.
That ball skipped in there and it gets away, and the Indians move up.
Tell you what, Kelly's doing his best to try and give the Indians some life.
Even with 2 outs.
Right.
2 outs, nobody on base, and now the Indians have a chance to maybe knock in 2 more here.
That would be great. Take advantage of it if you can. The wild pitch is going to send both in scoring position. Let me send out a very happy birthday to Russell Forbes, turning 87 today from Ashland, Ohio. Russell, happy birthday, my friend.
Happy birthday.
Base hit here goes a long way. Cuts that lead in half.
And this is a place where Kipnis has thrived throughout his career. Swung out and missed. back in 2011 when Kipnis was just starting out his career. Remember, Rick, he had a homer in 4 straight games.
Yeah.
And I think it either began or that Fenway Park was part of that streak. 1-1 pitch out of play. He was the first player in Major League history to homer in 4 straight games within 2 weeks of his debut, Major League debut. And he's the only Indian second baseman ever to homer in 4 straight games.
Well, this is a good ballpark for him because you see that the left field wall, the way he can drive it to left center field. This is a good ballpark for him.
3 of the 4 homers that he hit in that span were here at Fenway. First one was at home and then 3 straight here. Inside he missed. 2-2. Urshela at third. Ramirez at second. And with 2 down, a 2-ball, 2-strike count. And Joe Kelly laboring through this inning, even after the double play ball. Missed outside. Full count.
That's what he does. I mean, he gets up you. If he gets ahead of you, he doesn't try to get you to hit it and put it in play and pitch to contact. He starts nibbling.
Well, he's barely over 50% strikes.
And then he lets you back into the at bat if you're a hitter. When he gets ahead of you, he doesn't bury you or try to put you away. It seems like he just nibbles.
Kelly ready, and the payoff pitch. Oh, he got him to go fish. Strikes him out. Only his second strikeout of the game. Both times he's been able to get Kipnis. And the Indians get on the board. 6-1, middle of the 5th. Red Sox lead it. Bottom of the 5th inning. Top of the order due up for Boston. A little bit outside. Ball 1. Piazza takes, and it's 3-0. And a foul ball by Diaza. And a full count. Strike 3 called, and Corey Kluber has his 200th strikeout of the season. It's the 24th time in Indians franchise history that a pitcher has fanned 200 batters in an inning, and Corey Kluber has done it 2 years in a row. He is one of only 9 Indians pitchers to ever strike out 200 batters in a season.
Well, he came back from 3-0 to get Diaz on that one looking.
Hit a ton left center. Almonte makes the grab right in front of the green monster. 2 down. How about Sutton Sam did it 6 times?
Yeah.
And Bob Feller 4 consecutive tries, and then came back after the war and did it again.
Well,
by the way,
you know, all those guys did it when there was pretty much just 4 starters other than Cologne. You know, back to 2000, 2001, he did it 2 times. And of course, Kluber here, where you're going to get maybe 33 starts. But with Corey, nowadays, these guys are on pitch counts. Back in the day, they were never on pitch counts. So I would love to know how many pitches that Sam McDowell would throw in a season. Back in the day when you're striking out that many and walking that many people.
Well, especially in 1965 when he struck out 325 batters. I mean, how many pitches suppose he threw that year?
Boy, there's no telling.
Now, that was early in his career, so maybe not as many. I don't know.
Well, you got to mix in a lot more walks, I would think, than what Corey Kluber has, too.
Without a doubt. I mean, the Feller one to me is eye-popping.
What, in 1946, the 36 complete games?
Well, no, I mean, after missing 5 years. Or whatever it was, 4 years with the war, to come back and punch out. In-game recap brought to you by your Toyota dealers. It's been all Boston tonight. David Ortiz got it started with a solo shot in the second. Next man up, Travis Shaw, a solo shot over the green monster. Stayed that way until the 4th when Jackie Bradley Jr. hit a 3-run homer over the monster. And then Ryan Hannigan followed that with a solo shot. So twice tonight, the Red Sox have had back-to-back home runs, accounting for all 6 of their tallies on the scoreboard. Francisco Lindor to lead it off. Yeah, just to finish that thought up on Feller. So 1941 was his last year before the war. He won 25 games that year and had 260 strikeouts to lead the league. Then he missed basically 4 seasons. Came back in 1946 and struck out 348 batters to lead the league. Pitched 371 innings and had 36 complete games.
Yeah. Well, he had that time off. His arm was rested.
I mean,
well rested.
Those numbers are staggering.
Yes, they are.
It's hard to imagine, though, what that generation, after what they had been through, World War II, when they came back, it must have just felt like, no, we're going to live a little now after, going through that.
No kidding.
Have some fun and go out. Lindor tries to shoot one up the gut. Cut off by Holt. Quick release. Got him.
It's a pretty smart play there by Kelly. He was going to put his bare hand out and wisely took it back and let his shortstop make the play. He was going down, and it's a reaction when you're the pitcher, but it wasn't his glove hand, and then he says, nope, I'm going to let it go. And that was a wise decision because his shortstop was right there.
Michael Brantley, 1 out of 2 here tonight, singled in the 4th. Our great clip of the game from last night. Brantley with his 9th home run of the season.
Picked down a little breaking ball there, and the only run of the night for the Indians.
Out of play. Brantley shoots one left field near the line, and a foul ball. It almost looks, I mean, it's probably an optical illusion, but it almost looks like a fan could reach out and grab a ball in fair territory down that left field line.
I'll tell you, it'll be awful. It would be close. The higher up you get, I would say yes, they probably could. You can see there's only a few feet between the line and that the wall there.
Up and in, just missed. It's 2-2 for Michael. Down the right field line, fair ball, headed for the corner. Brantley on his way to second, and he'll hold there with a 1-out double.
First extra base hit for the Tribe. He made a good pitch the pitch before that, and then throws one down the middle, and then Michael, he just smoked it down the line. That was a mistake by Kelly, and Brantley took advantage of it. He's now 2 for 3. That's hit number 5 for the Indians, and the first extra base hit. There's your double leaders, 37 for Michael. from line to line. He just missed one foul in the at bat a couple of pitches before that.
There is Carlos Santana 0 for 2 tonight. Pops it up straight up in the air. Holt calls for it. 2 down.
Well, enjoy Sugardale Dollar Dogs $2 Miller Lite pregame and postgame fireworks show that'll take place Friday, August 28th. The Indians will take on Mike Trout and the Angels. Just visit Indians.com for your tickets.
Lonnie Chisenhall will bat with 2 down and a runner at second here in the 6th. He has walked, singled, and scored a run. On a play. Wow, that was close. Just missed the outside corner with a 95-mile-an-hour heater.
I'll take a look at it on our Nissan pitch tracker. That had some movement. That was off the plate. Hannigan's sitting off the plate. And that's one thing with Wade Kelly. When he misses, like I said, he tries to be too fine with some of these hitters. When you're throwing 96, let's see what they have. You got to challenge some of these hitters.
Same pitch, same result.
All day long.
And he missed again out there. Ball 4. So once again, Joe Kelly keeps offering the Indians opportunities to get right back in the game. Time for a Mazda game break. Here's Al Pawlowski. Carl Willis goes out to talk with Joe Kelly right now as the bullpen starting to get some action for Boston.
Again, this is where he's right on the verge with every start. He's into that 6th inning. I said between 5 and 6. He's at the 95 pitch mark. You know, think about if the Indians didn't hit into 3 double plays tonight, where they'd be. Robbie Ross is up. The left-hander getting loose.
Yan Gomes 0 for 2. Jeff Francoeur hit his 12th home run of the year for the Phillies tonight.
They're beating up Toronto 7-2 in the bottom of the 7th in Philadelphia. Caught the corner, and Gomes doesn't like it.
Fastball away. Boy, right there on the knees, outside corner. Good pitch.
Bounced in there. That's one of the examples that was given today at the Red Sox press conference about analytics and how they incorporate analytics. They were one of the, they brought Bill James in early.
Right.
A lot of people pointed to Boston as being a sabermetrics organization, that type of thing. They use it. I don't think they use it as an end-all be-all, but they said one of the things that it's helped in is framing, and how you get a catcher who's good at framing pitches. It can definitely translate into run differential. And that last pitch looked like a great job of framing, and then Gomes goes chasing, and another potential rally goes down the drain. Middle of the 6th. 6-1 Boston. Coaches, Tribe skipper Terry Francona, Jim Tressel, Blue Jackets head coach Todd Richards. Hear from them and all about their experiences, their influences, and what has made them so successful. Call 440-670-3580 for tickets and information. David Ortiz takes a breaking ball over the outside corner. And a foul tip. Activity in both bullpens right now as we're in the bottom of the 6th.
Yeah, the story of the night is the long ball for the Red Sox, 4 of them, to account for all 6 runs.
Just missed outside. And a career high 4 home runs allowed by Corey Kluber.
Yeah, 3 solo shots and the 3-run homer.
swung out and missed. He got him to chase a nasty slider down and in for the second time tonight. 8 Ks for Kluber, 1 down here in the 6th. Let's get on to Andre Knott.
Well, before today's game tonight, Mike Aviles, who's obviously has been going through a lot with his daughter Adriana, and the Jimmy Fund Radio Telethon has been going on. So Mike tonight escorted a young Boston cancer patient to the mound for a ceremonial first pitch. He also told me he's wrote a check for $4,000 to the Jimmy Fund. He says he made it $4,000 because he didn't want to make it just about Adriana. He wanted to make it about all 4 of his kids. So it was $1,000 for each kid that he gave to the Jimmy Fund today.
No,
Very
thanks,
cool.
Andre. It's been going on all day and night last night, and all day and all night tonight here in Boston. The Jimmy Fund raises money every year to go towards cancer research, to find a cure, to help patients with new therapies. And there's so many, watching it a little bit today, the telethon, there's so many heartwarming stories. I mean, so often we only hear the tragic end results about cancer, but there are a lot of good stories. There is a lot of hope out there. And so those dollars are all certainly much needed and greatly appreciated.
Well, the last tally I saw that they added the scoreboard in between innings were about 2.2 million, 2.5 million.
Travis Shaw draws a walk with 1 out here in the 6th inning.
That's the first walk for Kluber tonight.
You know, Rick, too, it's such an eerie coincidence that just 2 days before the big Jimmy Fund telethon goes on here in Boston, that John Farrell finds out that he's got cancer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just.
And we happen to be in town, and Frank Cohn has a friend goes with him to the hospital the next day.
Now, Terry even said, he goes, you know, I'm just grateful that we were able to be here and that he was able to go with John. As only Terry can, he brought a moment of levity to the situation. He and Brad Mills went along with John Farrell to his first chemotherapy treatment yesterday. He told John, I'm not here as your friend. I'm here because you owe me $20, and if anything happens, I want my $20.
Well, you don't know what to do or say a lot of times in that. You just want to be there for him, and that's exactly what he wanted to do, be there with his friend.
And that's what they did. They talked baseball, they told stories, anything to not think about what is actually going on. Tried to hold up, but he went around, I'm pretty sure.
Yes,
first
he
base
did.
umpire Marty Foster says you went. Let's go back down to Andre.
You know, not only did Terry Francona help out John Farrell, he also went over to the Jimmy Fund as well today. He wrote a check, and he told me, he goes, I wrote a check bigger than I've ever written before. He goes, because this year has opened my eyes to how great that fund has been. He goes, when I was here, I knew that. He goes, but I know it even more now that I'm close to so many people that have been affected by cancer.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Andre, the older we get, the more we know. Pop foul out of play. Torey Lovullo was saying, he goes, I used to come here all the time as a visitor, and I always hear about the Jimmy Fund, you see the signs, and you know about it. But he said, man, when you're here and you live here and you're part of it,
deal with it.
Man, you just see how important it is and how many people it affects. And the Dana-Farber Institute does incredible work.
Huge impact on the Northeast up here.
Yeah. Swing and a miss by Castillo. 9 strikeouts for Corey Kluber, 2 down here in the 6th inning.
Well, you're going to see a good slider there down out of the strike zone. You get him to chase it. That was well located there by Corey. This man delivered the biggest blow to Kluber here back in the 4th inning with 2 outs.
Is that some kind of hot or what?
That's on a nice run. Absolutely. It's a beautiful run. How could he not be in the lineup last night? That's what I want to know when you were hitting like he is. There's that fastball away that he stayed on and got enough of it to get it over that left field moss. You could see he was signaling all the way.
To second base, Kipnis will go to first. The inning is over. Then we'll go to the 7th. Boston 6, Cleveland 1.
Visit mykiacleveland.com to learn more. By Levin Mattress, located in all Levin furniture and freestanding locations. And by AT&T Uverse, has more channels on the go than cable.
Well, enjoy the new family deck and expanded kids clubhouse at KeyBank Kids Fun Day. That'll be Sunday when we return home. Plus, kids run the bases after the game, presented by Cleveland Clinic Children's. Visit Indians.com for all the details.
Call to the bullpen is brought to you by Cleveland Clinic. Joe Kelly went 6 innings tonight. It was a weird 6 innings. He only gave up 1 run. He kind of had that walk through a minefield ability to avoid disaster tonight.
Yeah, 3 double play balls. They had opportunities, but actually the run scored on an error, and it should have been a double play ball, and then he got the double play ball the very next hitter. Alexei Ogando on. The right-hander leads that bullpen for the Sox in innings pitched. He's pitched 50 2/3 innings out of the pen, which is 15th in the American League. And he's given up 12 long balls. So That's what you need to come back. You're down 5 runs, get a couple guys on, somebody hit one out.
No balls, 2 strikes. The count on Almonte. Foul back. No balls, 2 strikes. Almonte awaits. Ogando delivers, and it's rifled to left field, a base hit.
Well, he went out there and hit a pretty good pitch to left field.
Our AT&T U-verse rewind. Red Sox throwing around the leather tonight, playing really good defense.
Well, that first catch came in the first inning. Then they turned a couple of double plays. There's a 3-6-1. Kelly was over there waiting. And their third double play of the night.
And that third double play came right after an error that was committed by Rutledge that looked like, oh, well, maybe the Indians have an opportunity now. And then, woof, immediately wiped out.
Yeah, Kelly picked up his defense, gave that same guy an opportunity to turn it after he made the error, and he did.
Foul tip, and it's 0-2. Six runs on 6 hits for Boston, 1 run on 6 hits for Cleveland.
Gondo has come out and he's firing nothing but strikes. He's 8 for 8.
Big difference tonight is 5 of the 6 hits for Cleveland are singles.
Yeah.
5 of the 6 hits for Boston, extra base hits, with 4 of them being home runs. Pushed him back. 1-2. Goes. And a foul ball by Urshela.
Yeah, he takes his time. He's got a big leg kick delivering it home, and finally Almonte took off on one of those pitches. Not to where you can afford to get thrown out, but he is pretty slow to home plate.
Well, plus you figure he's thrown 9 out of 10 pitches for strikes, so
yeah, he's going to be around the dish.
Chance to put it in play, you would think. away. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Algondo was one of those guys, when you first saw him, you thought, how is anybody ever going to hit this guy? First year in 2010, he only appeared in 44 games, but he had an ERA of 1.30.
Yeah, then they end up trying to make him a starter.
And then the injuries. Did have a good year as a starter, though, in 2011, 13-8 with a 3.51 ERA. But you and I both know, you see it so many times when you go from reliever to starter when you haven't done it before.
Yeah,
it's just very difficult transition. Other way around happens all the time. But
well, they did that with Neftali Feliz too, a guy that was a closer, throwing in the high 90s when he first came up, and started him, and boy, he's done.
The 2-2. And the thought process, I understand. I remember John Farrell told me years ago when he was the Indians director of player development running the farm system. I would ask him about minor league pitchers, certain guys. I said, is this guy you think he's the guy you like better as a starter or as a reliever? And he said, for me, you got a guy that can get you 21 outs. That's more valuable than a guy that can only get you 3 outs.
Yeah.
So you always want to make guys starters until you get to a point where you say, all right, we got to try something
prove they
different.
can't start.
Yeah. Rope foul. Look out. Get off that sidewall. This will be the 10th pitch of the at bat.
Well, that was a pretty healthy 2-strike cut right there on that pitch.
The 2-2. You know, the other thing is that when John told me that many years ago, bullpens were important, but not as important as they are now.
True.
Now there's definitely a bigger premium placed on those last 9 or so outs.
Well, it all comes with a closer. Every team has to have a closer that you can rely on, because he sets up the rest of the bullpen.
Threw it by him. And Algondo finally strikes him out. But boy, did it take a lot of pitches. 1 down.
It's a breaking ball. There's the slider. It was right there, middle of the plate. He just took something off of it, and he was out in front.
Jose Ramirez 1 for 2 with a single. That came in the 5th. We are in the 7th inning with 1 on, 1 out, and a foul back. Evens the count. Hey, tomorrow night the Indians will be off to the Big Apple, and it's a 4-game series against the New York Yankees. Josh Tomlin will start the series opener. That's a team he got his first career win against. Our coverage begins at 6:30 with Indians Live. First pitch from the Bronx at 7 right here on Sports Time Ohio. Tell you what, Alexi Ogando could give Rafael Betancourt a run for his money.
Well, you remember that one pitch in the at-bat Almonte took off, so now he's going to pay attention to him. Even though it is a 6-1 game, he's thrown over there probably about 4 times.
It's not even just so much that, it's just, man, he's taking
very deliberate
forever between pitches.
Very deliberate. There's no tempo or rhythm there. One of those pitchers that, you know, he looks in and to get his sign, and it just really, really slow.
Ramirez pops one to right center. And Castillo makes the catch. 2 down.
Oh, he threw it in the seats, and there's only.
He thought there were 3 outs.
Yeah, he sure did. He threw it in the seats.
And they're going to let Almonte go to third.
Yeah. That's having no clue what the situation was.
That is
he turned around and flipped it into the seats like there was 3 outs. Well, that's how slow Ogando is.
Well,
you're
right.
not into the game. That right there sums it up. You're an outfielder. He can't believe it. Well, that's how long that Urshela at bat was.
That was 10 or 11 pitches.
Look at this. I saw him turn around. I said, you better get it in. You're not paying attention. There you go. Have a souvenir. Oh, by the way, that guy on first can go to third now. That's another error.
Everybody's yelling at him. He's like, what?
Yeah.
What'd I do?
Second error of the night for Boston. He's lucky it wasn't a close game.
I was just thinking the same thing, Rick. What if this is a 1-run game right now, even though there are 2 outs?
Well, it has the crowd buzzing a little bit here, thinking, what are you doing? He'll hear it on the way in, I guarantee it.
Kipnis has fouled that off of his front foot.
Oh, kneecap.
Right on the knee.
Yes, it was. That sure was. Right on the front knee. Ouch.
Boy, you know, when you've got that stiff front side, when it's locked in to hit, oof.
There's nothing you can do.
No. He appears to be okay, and he's ready to resume the at-bat, but he's not down on the count 0-2. Ogando strikes him out to end the inning. He gets a pair of Ks here in the 7th, and the score remains Boston 6, Cleveland 1. As we get ready now for the 7th inning stretch, and once again they're having the Jimmy Fund Telethon here in Boston over the last couple of days, and right now a very special young man is going to sing God Bless America here in the 7th inning. Joseph Letourneau, 23 years old, from Goffstown, New Hampshire. He was an original member, I should say, of the Jimmy Fund Chorus back in 2013.
Sing along with Fenway Park organist Josh Cantor as he plays Take Me Out to the Ball Game. But first, to lead us in God Bless America, we welcome a 23-year-old young man who was an original member of our Jimmy Fund Chorus in 2013. He's being treated for histiocytosis X, a degeneration of the central nervous system. He hails from Goffstown, New Hampshire. So welcome, Joseph Letourneau.
God bless America, land that I love, stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Bottom of the 7th, Zach McAllister on now for Cleveland. Corey Kluber went 6 runs, 6 hits, walked 1, struck out 9. All 6 runs came via 4 homers, 3 solo shots, and a 3-runner. Hannigan hit the last homer of the night. Came right after Jackie Bradley hit the 3-run homer that blew it open in the 4th. McAllister delivers a strike. It's 0-2. In terms of pitches thrown, 92. It's the fewest number of pitches thrown for Corey as that ball hits Hannigan. And the Red Sox get their leadoff man aboard.
Well, right there.
Breaking ball that went awry.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I mean, he had him down 0-2. It was a breaking ball, and you know he just has a tough time throwing the breaking ball for strikes. This one gets away and hits him, not even close. Just don't know why it's so tough for McAllister to throw a breaking ball for a strike.
Out That'll bring up Josh Rutledge 0 for 2. The 92 pitches thrown by Kluber tonight, the fewest since June 14th. When the Indians were in Detroit, he made just 69 pitches that night over 5 innings of work, and he only gave up 2 runs. I'm thinking that might have been a rain delay. One of those deals where he didn't come back. Because you would think 5 innings, he'd only given up 2 runs, 69 pitches. That wouldn't have been a game usually where he would be taken out.
Especially against Detroit. Yeah, I mean, for Kluber tonight, his location wasn't spot on. You know, a couple of times he made that mistake. We tried to go inside the Ortiz solo home run. Shaw hit a fastball down the other way. Bradley a fastball away, and the last one was Hannigan was a cutter, so they just jumped him early.
Rutledge down on strikes here. Ran at first base, 1-0.
Well, season tickets offer the best perks, including savings and access to Tribe Rewards. So today's Tribe Rewards TV code is TOMI. You can visit Indians.com season tickets for the complete details.
Alejandro De Aza 0 for 3. Struck out his last time up. Swung on and missed. And it's 1-2. Fly ball center field. In comes Almonte. 2 down. Sunday, 2 of the UFC's hottest rising stars face off as elite featherweight destroyer Max Holloway takes on dangerous double threat Charles Oliveira, plus a welterweight showdown between Neil Magny and Eric Silva. UFC Fight Night, 6:30 Eastern, only on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Rockhold 0 for 3. Fly ball to left. Ramirez is there and makes the catch. 7 in the books, 6-1 Boston.
Cleveland Indians and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cleveland Indians.
Well, stay tuned after the game for Indians Live, brought to you by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care. Coming back, top half of the 8th inning. A new pitcher for Boston. It's going to be Tommy Lane coming on, the left-hander. He pitched in the first game Monday night in this series. Went an inning and 2/3, gave up a run on 2 hits. The 45th time he has appeared in a ball game. So it's going to be Lindor, Brantley, and Santana.
Lindor 1 out of 3 tonight. He continues to swing the bat very well. Very consistent approach at the plate.
Yeah, he was robbed of a double or extra base, maybe more than that in the first inning. Had another shot to center field. Bradley cut it off and held him to a single. He should have 2 hits tonight.
He's got a hit in 13 of his last 14 overall.
Hitting for a higher average on this side of the plate. 304 hitter from the right side. Pretty good pitch right there.
3-1 to count as Tommy Lane had a long look in, saying what? Lindor chops it foul over to the dugout. Now the payoff pitch. Chased one in the dirt. Hannigan makes a good throw to first. 1 down.
Did you see how he positioned himself to come inside the line or step back behind first base to give him a lane to throw to Shaw at first after the swing and miss as Lindor was going down the line.
Almost makes it a more difficult play for the catcher because there's more foul territory to run in for Lindor. As he can get in the way more on that side of the line.
Yeah. Well, he did a nice job just to block that ball.
Oakland beat the Dodgers again, 5-2. And the Giants are deadlocked with St. Louis 3-3 in the 8th. If the Giants can win, they'll close to within 1 game of LA in the NL West.
Yeah, I see where the Giants, though, Hunter Pence going on a DL with an oblique strain. That's going to hurt them. He's pretty much the heart and soul of that team.
Brantley looks, it's outside. Oh, right back up the middle.
I'll tell you
that almost took Tommy Lane with it. Brantley's got 3 straight hits in the game.
He can swing the bat. He looks back when those pitchers, you don't make a good pitch and this guy comes back and that was middle of the plate with a breaking ball. He's going to knock you off the mound. And all you can say is, hey, you're the one that threw it in the middle. He's just up there to swing it. He has 3 consecutive hits. The Indians have 7 on it. They've out-hit the Red Sox. Of course, 6 singles and the 1 Brantley double.
Carlos Santana 0 for 3 at the plate. Tigers are at Wrigley taking on the Cubs. They've had a game similar to ours, except every single run in that game has come by the homer.
For the Tigers, huh? Yeah,
Nick Castellanos hit a solo shot. Then the pitcher, Daniel Norris, hit a 2-run homer.
No kidding.
That was in the 2nd inning against John Lester. Then in the 3rd, right, Castellanos hit a grand slam to make it 7-0.
Well, how about that? That's going to be our matchup on Monday when we wrap up this road trip. It's going to be Lester and Kluber. And both those guys gave up a few homers at the start, huh?
He only lasted 2 2/3. He was gone after 7 runs allowed.
Wow.
Cubs have gotten homers from Dexter Fowler and the big boy Chris Bryant, but they're down 7-3.
Well, it's only the 3rd inning, so or at least that's what this board
they've
says.
gone to the 5th, but still, like you said, in that ballpark.
Well, and that bullpen,
still happened.
You know, with the Tigers, you never know.
Gene Machie. Gene Machie getting loose as Santana awaits the 1-2 pitch. Swung on and missed. He strikes him out. 2 down. As promised earlier, it's Miller time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Boston with the big bat.
Yeah, it was. Fastball, 1st inning home run. And right after that one came this one. Going the other way with Shaw, a 3-run home run. That did the damage in the very next pitch. The first 3 were on fastballs. That last one was on the cutter. Boston has taken advantage of every hit that they have. That's it. 4 home runs, a double and a single.
Well, we've got a timeout for a pitching change with 1 on and 2 out, and the Red Sox up 5. Torey Lovullo will go to Gene Machie because Jerry Sands has come on to pinch hit for Lenny Chisenhall. He's brought it tonight.
Yeah. A little base hit to left field. Let me try a little double down the right field line, and then for an encore, I'm going to go right back up the middle with a hanging breaking ball. So left, center, and right.
6 hits in the series. And Jerry Sands, the batter. The new pitcher is Gene Machi. Machi worked a 1-2-3 ninth last night. Trying to get the last out of the 8th here this evening.
Yeah, he used 7 pitches to end that 9th inning.
Missed outside with it. 1 ball, 1 strike. A little bit outside. The 2-1 way outside. 3 balls and a strike. It's not a full moon, but it's a slow moon. Machi walks Sands. 2 on. 2 out. Yan Gomes the batter. Saturday baseball returns to Fox Sports 1 with another doubleheader as the Giants play the Pirates. It's a rematch of last year's wild card game in the NL. Then it's the Rangers and the Tigers, and coverage begins at 3:30 Eastern on Fox Sports 1, streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Gomes tonight 0 for 3, 0 for 6 in the series.
Well, Machi comes out tonight, and in 7 pitches he retired the inning. He's only thrown 1 strike in the first 6 pitches.
Gomes ropes it foul. Look out. Well, Yan has 2 hits in his last 18 at bats. Almost like he just cannot find any kind of rhythm at the plate. That's called a strike. Part of the problem is he's been trying to hit his way out of the offensive funk, and he has expanded his strikeout or strike zone to where he has swung out a lot of pitches. And the 1-2 pitch. Out of play.
Well, he's been susceptible to that breaking ball down. A lot of people have bounced it recently, and he's been chasing that pitch that's down on the plate. That time he left one up a little bit, and he gets a piece of it.
Now Machi delivers the 1-2. And another foul back by Gomes. Michael Brantley, who singled, is at second base. Gary Sands, who walked, is at first. Indians have had multiple opportunities like this one to get back into this game, but have not been able to take advantage. Twice a double play ball short-circuited potential rallies. In the 6th, Gomes struck out to end with 2 men on base. High heater lays off 2-2. Again, Machi ready, the 2-2. To right field, well struck, deep. On the run is Castillo. He won't get it. It's out of here. Yan Gomes goes oppo with a 2-out, 3-run homer. And the Indians finally strike back with a big thump from Yan Gomes. And all of a sudden, it's a 2-run game.
Well, he gives him something that Gomes was able to stay on and shoot it right down the line. It looked like a little fastball away. Outside part of the plate. Look at him, kept his head down on it. Let it track deep into the zone, and he hits it into the seats, wraps it around the pole down there in the right area. So that's a 3-pointer for the Indians. And for Gomes,
5 of his 8 home runs have come from the 7th inning on.
well, it couldn't have come at a better time, because it brings him right back into the ball game.
Nobody up at the moment in the Boston pen, although that's about to change. Abraham Almonte is going to be the batter.
That's what they needed. One swing of the bat to bring you into the game. Now they're down to 4 outs. So let's see this fastball away. And boy, he stayed on it. He kept continuing to throw him strikes. He fouled a breaking ball off that way and another fastball until he got one to his liking. And he hit it out of here.
Been a rough stretch for Gomes, but boy, that one had to feel good. He was 2 for his last 18. But that big swing gives the Indians some life, some hope, even though they only have 4 outs left to play with. Abraham Almonte is 1 out of 3 tonight, 2 for 9 in the series. He singled in the 7th inning to lead that inning off, and then with 2 outs, he ended up getting third base because the right fielder Castillo caught the ball and threw it into the seats, thinking it was the 3rd out. But it was a situation where the Indians weren't able to take advantage of that opportunity. Still nobody throwing in the Boston pen. Must have changed their mind. And that's called a strike. Hit hard, but foul into the seats. Wow. That ball got in there in a hurry. Broken bat bouncer to first. Shaw beats him to the bag to end the inning. Yan Gomes gives the Indians some hope, though. 2 out, 3-run blast in the 8th. draws the Indians to within 2. Bottom of the 8th inning at Fenway as we look back at our keys to the game, brought to you by Wayside Furniture. Attack the heater. Well, they didn't do much attacking tonight. In fact, it was Kelly who kept the Indians at bay by getting 3 double play balls in the first 5 innings. Kluber fastball command, it was there at times, but it eluded him at times, and the
3 home runs coming off a fastball out of the 4. Yes, they did.
Career high 4 home runs allowed. So Kyle Crockett to face 3, 4, and 5 for Boston here in the bottom of the 8th. Jerry Sands now the right fielder. Bouncer towards second. Kipnis throws him out, one away. David Ortiz 1 for 3. He homered in the second, struck out his next 2 times up. And Kluber was able to strike him out in the 4th and 6th innings by getting ahead and then getting him to chase the slider down and in.
Boy, did he ever. He chased 2 sliders that weren't even close.
That's socked into center. 1 out base runner for Boston.
That slider to Ortiz, middle of the plate on that first pitch, and he was waiting for it. Takes it right back up the middle. So that's their first hit since their last home run back in the 4th inning.
Right back to Crockett. Bobbled it for a moment, throws to second for 1, and that's all they'll get.
Now comes Tito out to make a pitching change because they're going to Castillo, the right-hander. So Crockett on for 2/3 of an inning.
And so with 2 down, Terry Francona will go to Brian Shaw. 6-4, Boston on top. Red Sox have a runner at first, 2 down, and the batter will be Rusney Castillo as Brian Shaw comes on for the 52nd time this year. Castillo is 1 for 3. Singleton scored in the 4th.
Back in that 7th inning, he ended up throwing a ball into the seats with only 2 outs, thinking it was out number 3. Indians had a runner on first that was able to advance to third on the error.
And I know, regardless of the situation, you have to stay mentally tough. And it's ultimately it's his mistake. But that had as much to do with how brutally slow Alexei Agomna was working in that inning. Because he probably just lost track of what was going on.
I agree. Yeah, he thought there was 2, but you still don't flip it up into the seats until you're absolutely sure.
Wasn't it Larry Walker that did that one time and then went back and got the ball?
There's a few guys that have done that. Yes, and it was in play, and guys were rounding the bases down the right field line.
He flipped it up and then went back and said, "Hey, I need that."
Yeah, can I borrow that for a second? There was a couple of guys that have done that.
Missed inside again. Shaw's run the count full. Travis Shaw will be off at first as Brian Shaw delivers a 3-2 pitch. Castillo with a bouncer to Kipnis, and we'll go to the 9th. Indians down 2. Here in the 9th, it will be Junichi Tazawa who will try to close this one out for the Red Sox.
I got to correct Jensen. We need 2 bloops in a blast.
Yeah, we don't want no tie.
A bloop and a blast will just tie it. We need to take the lead is right.
We want to be greedy. Tazawa does not have a save this year. He has 2 wins, 5 losses. and a 3.24 ERA. Those 5 losses tells you that he has been in some games late, and he has given up runs which have cost his team games, which ultimately he took the loss in. But with their closer Koji Uehara out, they really don't have a go-to closer right now.
It's a day-to-day thing, and we know how that can work. It's not easy. That 9th inning, the last 3 outs. There you'll see he's got the wrist.
Down low, ball 1. Giovanni Urshela 0 for 2.
Boy, and it always means a lot with that leadoff hitter too. In that last inning, down to 3 outs, get him on, see what can happen.
Pumped it by him, 1-1. Well, I mean, he's given up runs in 6 of his last 13 appearances. So, obviously, there are times when he just doesn't have it. Let's hope this is one of those nights. Outside, he missed. 2 balls and a strike. Another sort of herky-jerky delivery style. Yeah, very common among the Japanese pitchers, where it's almost overly deliberate.
Well, they have a pause in there.
Yeah.
An actual pause, and then all of a sudden it seems like he's coming at you.
Yeah, when he plants that foot down, that lead leg, he generates a lot of arm speed to bring that ball through his delivery. Because it almost looks like slow motion, and then really at the last moment he lurches forward. Threw it by him upstairs, 94, but it was elevated in a full count. The result of this pitch could go a long way in determining how the rest of this inning plays out. The 3-2. Right field. Castillo over near the line, makes the catch.
It was a foul ball. He was able to get over there in time to make the play. Sliced it down the right field line, and you can see it slicing. It's going to be in foul territory by the time he catches it, but awfully close. Almost looked like he caught it high enough where it could have been in fair territory, but the umpire called it foul.
So with 1 out, Jose Ramirez, the batter, and he's 1 for 3 on the night. Fastball in there for strike 1. You can hear Tazawa kind of grunt as he delivers that pitch. At the knees, a strike. 0-2. Jason Kipnis waiting on deck, 0 for 4 tonight. Low and away, 2-2. Indians have out-hit Boston 8-7. But they're too shy in the run column.
Yeah, both teams with a 3-run homer tonight. And that's what brought the Indians back into this game last inning off the bat of Yan Gomes.
Ramirez shoots it to third. Sandoval stabs it but fell down. Gets up and throws him out. Holy smokes. Nice recovery by Pablo Sandoval. Off the line drive by Ramirez that on one hop he was able to stab it, go to the dirt, and make the play.
Yeah, he tripped over himself right there, but he had the wherewithal to get back up, realizing who's running down the line and get rid of it quickly. He did, just in time to get the second out.
And so for Cleveland, their last hope is Jason Kipnis. 0 for 4. He has punched out 3 times. Out of play.
You know, so far on this road trip we were talking about with the Indians getting off to a good start, they've been able to win both opening games of 2 series. In Minnesota, they lost the second and third game, and they're very close to doing that here as well after winning that opening game. So he gets him on the hip, right off the side of the knee.
Tazawa trying to make it a 1-2-3 ninth. The 0-2 pitch to Kipnis. In the dirt. Yeah, it's funny. You think about that. Harped so long about, oh, they can't win the opener of a series. Then they do, and then they can't win after that. Not a whole lot about this season that makes any sort of conventional sense. Again, a 2-strike pitch. Kipnis punches it towards third. Sandoval. And the Red Sox come back to win the series, taking 2 out of 3 from Cleveland as they hold on and win it by a final tonight of 6-4. Boston goes to 54 and 66. The Indians fall to 55 and 64. Joe Kelly gets the win. He went 6 innings. He is 6 and 6. The save to Tazawa, it's his first. Losing pitcher Corey Kluber, he's now 8 and 13 on the season. Long ball, that's the story tonight. Boston beat him with the homer. And it's time for our